The chamber was older than human civilization itself. Ambassador David Cole stood at the entrance and felt his breath catch in his throat. The Galactic Council headquarters stretched before him like a cathedral carved from starlight and stone. Massive pillars rose toward a ceiling that seemed to contain actual galaxies, swirling and pulsing with colors that human eyes had never evolved to see. The air itself felt heavy with history, with power, with the weight of decisions that had shaped the fates of countless worlds. Beside him, Admiral Priya Sharma kept her face carefully neutral, though her hands were clasped behind her back in a grip tight enough to turn her knuckles white. Dr. Thomas Obi, humanity's foremost expert in alien psychology, clutched his translation device like a lifeline. They were the first humans to ever stand in this place dot around them. The representatives of the galaxy watched their arrival with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. The Velthari delegation, beings of living crystal who measured their lives in geological ages, chimed softly to each other in frequencies that sounded like breaking glass. The Morjuan collective, a hive mind spread across thousands of identical gray bodies, turned their eyeless faces toward the humans in perfect unison. The Vesserans, entities so ancient that they had watched stars being born, observed from forms that shifted and changed every few seconds, impossible to focus on directly, and above them all, seated on a throne of compressed dark matter at the chamber's apex, sat High Arbiter Voss. The supreme authority of the Galactic Council was a being of pure thought, given temporary physical shape, and right now that shape radiated impatience. The species designated human may approach, Voss announced. The voice came from everywhere at once. You have 5 standard time units to present your petition. David Cole walked forward. His footsteps echoed in the vast space, and he became acutely aware of how small he was. How small humanity was. Their entire civilization would fit in a corner of this chamber. Their entire history was a footnote in the Council's archives. But he kept walking. The viewing galleries above were packed with observers from hundreds of species, all here to witness this moment. Word had spread across the galaxy that the primitive bipeds from the unremarkable yellow star had somehow achieved faster-than-light travel and were now petitioning for council membership. It was, apparently, the most entertaining thing to happen in centuries. David reached the petitioner's circle, a raised platform in the center of the chamber where countless species had stood before him, begging for scraps of recognition from the galactic powers. He did not beg. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice steady despite the thousands of alien eyes watching him. I am Ambassador David Cole, representing the United Earth Government. On behalf of 8 billion human beings, I respectfully request that humanity be granted full membership in this council. The laughter started before he finished speaking. It began with the Kelthrix delegation, a proud warrior species whose ambassador, a massive 4-armed being named Grath, let out a barking sound that the translator rendered as harsh amusement. The Velthari crystals chimed in what their cultural files indicated was mockery. Even the Morjuan collective produced a sound like 1,000 voices sighing in unison. Full membership? High Arbiter Voss repeated. The species that achieved space travel 17 cycles ago requests full membership. Yes, David said simply. The species that has not yet colonized its own system requests equal standing with civilizations that have existed for millions of years. Yes, the chamber erupted in louder laughter. David stood perfectly still, his face revealing nothing. Admiral Sharma's jaw tightened. Dr. Obi made notes on his device with trembling fingers. But neither of them spoke. This was the ambassador's moment. High Arbiter Voss raised a hand, and the laughter gradually subsided. Perhaps you do not understand what full membership entails. It requires technological advancement your species has not achieved. It requires cultural stability your history does not demonstrate. It requires military capability to defend your territory and honor your treaty obligations. We understand, David replied. Then surely you also understand why your request cannot be granted. The Council has existed for 3 million standard cycles. We have seen species like yours before, young, ambitious, certain of their own importance. Voss's form flickered with what might have been contempt. Most destroy themselves within 1,000 cycles. The ones that survive learn humility. A new voice joined the conversation. The Fesseron representative, appearing as a constantly shifting geometric shape that hurt to look at directly, spoke directly into David's mind. Little carbon creature, you have barely learned to walk among the stars, and you ask to run with those who built them. This is not courage. This is ignorance. David turned to face the Fesseran, meeting its impossible gaze without flinching. Perhaps, he acknowledged. Or perhaps it is simply a different perspective. We are young, yes. We have not existed for millions of years. But we have accomplished much in our brief time. We united a divided world. We reached beyond our planet. We solved problems your ancient species never faced because you never had to face them. The Fesseran's form flickered with surprise. You dare to suggest you have accomplished what we have not? I suggest that different challenges require different strengths. You measure worth in years. We measure it in progress. The chamber fell silent. This was not how petitioners usually behaved. Ambassador Grath of the Kelthrix stepped forward, his forearms crossed in a posture of dominance. I tire of this creature's arrogance. High Arbiter, let us render judgment and be done with this farce. The humans are prey animals who have somehow learned to build ships. They are no threat and no asset. Give them observer status and let them fade into obscurity like all the others. Agreed, chimed the Velthari speaker. They are unstable, violent. Our probability models give them a 70% chance of self-destruction within 500 cycles. Agreed, echoed the Morjuan collective. Their minds are fragmented, individual. They cannot even achieve consensus among themselves. One by one, the Council's inner circle voiced their assessment. Each was more dismissive than the last. Humanity was primitive. Humanity was dangerous to itself. Humanity was insignificant. Humanity should be grateful for any status the Council chose to grant. Through it all, David Cole listened. He took notes. He did not interrupt. When the final voice had spoken, High Arbiter Voss delivered the preliminary judgment. The Galactic Council will grant humanity provisional observer status. You may maintain your presence in your home system. You will have no trading rights beyond basic survival goods. You will have no territorial recognition beyond your single star. You will have no voice in galactic affairs. In 1,000 cycles, you may petition again. The chamber waited for the human to accept his fate with appropriate. Gratitude. David Cole did something else entirely. He turned to Admiral Sharma and Dr. Obi. A look passed between them. Something decided long before they ever entered this chamber. Then he faced the Council once more. Distinguished members, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Humanity thanks you for your honesty today. You have shown us exactly how the galaxy views us. This is valuable information. He paused, and the silence stretched. However, we must respectfully decline your offer of observer status. A ripple of confusion passed through the assembly. Decline? Furthermore, David continued, humanity withdraws its petition for membership entirely. We withdraw from all contact with the Galactic Council and its member species. We will close our borders. We will disable our communication beacons. We will go silent. High Arbiter Voss's form flickered with something that might have been surprise. You would isolate yourselves? You would reject even the minimal protection observer status provides? Yes, There are dangers in the galaxy that prey upon unprotected species. Without council status, you have no recourse. We understand. This is foolishness, Ambassador Grath growled. Suicidal foolishness. David Cole smiled. It was not a warm smile. Perhaps. Or perhaps we simply refuse to stay where we are not wanted. We will not grovel for scraps from your table. We will not accept the status of pets or curiosities to be observed and measured and predicted. He straightened his simple gray suit and looked around the chamber one final time. You have told us what we are in your eyes: young, primitive, insignificant. Very well. We accept your assessment. But we do not accept your judgment of what we might become. He bowed, a gesture of farewell that carried no submission. Goodbye, Galactic Council. When next we meet, if we ever meet again, things will be different. Not because you will have changed, because we will have. The human delegation turned and walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in a silence, so complete it seemed to have weight dot as they reached the doorway. David Cole paused and looked back over his shoulder. One more thing. We do not forget how we were treated here today. We do not forget the laughter. This is not a threat. It is simply a fact. Humans have long memories. Then they were gone. The chamber remained silent for a long moment after the humans departed. The representatives of 12,000 species looked at each other in confusion. What just happened? The Velthari speaker finally asked. High Arbiter Voss's form solidified, taking on unusual density. I am not certain, but I believe we just witnessed something we have not seen in 3 million cycles. What? A species that would rather walk alone into darkness than accept being diminished. Update the human file. This may prove more interesting than anticipated. The human diplomatic vessel broke from the council station and began its long journey home. Inside, the 3 humans sat in the small observation lounge, watching the stars stream past. Do you think they believed us? Admiral Sharma asked quietly. Ambassador Cole loosened his collar and let out a long breath. It does not matter if they believed us. What matters is what we do next. And what is that? Cole looked at his companions and out at the infinite darkness. We become something they cannot ignore, something they cannot dismiss, something that makes them regret every laugh. The ship accelerated toward Sol, carrying humanity's answer to the galaxy. Silence, and a promise. 60 years of silence. Trade. Captain Brell of the Kelthrix Dominion had heard stories about the humans, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. The primitive species that had walked out of the council chamber. The arrogant little creatures who had rejected observer status and sealed themselves away from civilization. His grandfather had been a young officer serving under Ambassador Grath on that day, and the family still laughed about it at gatherings. Stupid humans. Probably extinct by now. But as Brell's merchant vessel, the Iron Fortune, dropped out of hyperspace near the Sol quarantine zone, he felt the first stirring of unease. The quarantine beacons were gone. Navigation, he growled. Confirm our position. His second officer, a scarred female named Tress, ran her claws over the console. Position confirmed, Captain. We are at the exact coordinates of the Sol quarantine perimeter. Then, where is the perimeter? I do not know, sir. The council interdiction field is not registering on any sensor. The warning buoys have been removed. All of them. Brell leaned forward in his command chair. The Kelthrix were a warrior species, bred for combat and conquest. They did not frighten easily, but something about this empty space made his combat instincts twitch. Scanned for human vessels. Any human presence. Tress worked her console for a long moment. Then she went very still. Captain, I am detecting a signal. What kind of signal? It appears to be a navigation beacon. Standard format, but the frequency is wrong. It is broadcasting in the clear. She paused. The message is in Kelthric, sir. Play it. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking their language with perfect pronunciation. Welcome to human space. You are free to enter, trade, or pass through. We ask only that you conduct yourself peacefully. Hostile action will be met with overwhelming response. Safe travels. The bridge crew exchanged uncertain looks. Overwhelming response? Tress repeated. From the species that could barely reach their own moon when they left the council, Brel made a decision. Set course for the inner system. Shields at maximum. Weapons ready, but not active. Let us see what these humans have done. With their 60 years, the Iron Fortune accelerated. Toward Sol. What they found changed everything Brel thought. He knew about the universe. The Sol system had been transformed beyond recognition. Mercury, the small planet closest to the star, was half gone. Literally dismantled. Its mass had been converted into a vast swarm of solar collectors that formed a partial ring around the sun, drinking in energy on a scale that made Brel's mind reel. Venus, the toxic hellworld, was shrouded in orbital platforms that pulsed with terraforming energy. Through gaps in the machinery, Brel could see clouds forming in what had once been an atmosphere of acid. Mars was green. Green. World that had been dead rock 6 decades ago now showed. Forests and lakes and cities gleaming. Under an open sky. And Earth itself was hidden. Completely hidden behind a shell of orbital structures so dense and complex that not a single photon of light escaped from the planet's surface. By the ancient warriors, Tress whispered. This is impossible. This level of construction would take the Kelthric's dominion 5,000 years. The Velthari 10,000. How did they do this? I do not know, Rel admitted. His voice sounded strange in his own ears. But I intend to find out. A small vessel detached from the orbital shell and moved to intercept them. It was sleek and fast, built for speed and elegance in equal measure. The Iron Fortune's sensors struggled to read its power signature, returning numbers that simply could not be correct. The communication screen flickered, and a human face appeared. Male, dark skin, gray hair at the temples, eyes that carried a calm confidence that reminded Brel uncomfortably of apex predators. Kelthric's vessel Iron Fortune. This is Harbor Controller Marcus Webb III. Welcome to Sol. State your cargo and intentions. Webb, the name triggered something in Brel's memory. Had the human ambassador who walked out of the council been named Webb? We are merchants, Brel said carefully. We carry processed metals and luxury goods. We come to trade. Excellent. Trade is always welcome. Follow the beacon to Commerce Station 7. You will find fair prices and honest dealing. A few restrictions apply. No weapons technology. No biological samples without quarantine clearance. Standard stuff. Wait. Brel leaned forward. I must know. How did you achieve all this? In 60 years? Harbor Controller Webb smiled. It was not a threatening expression, but something in it made Brel's warrior instincts scream warnings. We had motivation, Captain. When the galaxy tells you that you are nothing, you have 2 choices. Accept it, or prove them wrong. He paused. We chose the second option. We worked together. We pushed ourselves. We refused to accept any limit placed on us by others. But the technology alone should have taken centuries to develop. By Council standards, yes. But we are not the Council. We do not wait for knowledge to come to us. We chase it. We share it. We improve it together. Webb's expression grew more serious. Captain Brel, I know the history between our peoples. I know your grandfather served Ambassador Grath on the day we left the council. I want you to understand something. What? We do not hold grudges. Anger is wasteful. But we do remember. And we want the galaxy to remember something too. We are not what we were. We are not what you expected us to become. And we are not done growing. The communication ended. Brel sat in silence for a long moment, staring at the impossible engineering surrounding him. Then he made another decision. Tress, document everything. Every scan. Every reading. Every observation. For the Dominion military, sir? No, for the Council. They need to know that everything they believed about humanity was wrong. The report Captain Brel delivered to Kelthrick's High Command was classified at the highest level. But secrets have a way of spreading, especially secrets this significant. Within 6 months, the entire galaxy knew that something unprecedented had occurred in the Sol system. The Council's response was measured at first. A scientific delegation was proposed. A diplomatic mission was discussed. Formal procedures were initiated. But the humans responded to every inquiry with the same message. We are not interested in contact with the Council at this time. We wish you well. And so the Council sent scouts. 3 small vessels, crewed by the best operatives from the Mordruan Collective, slipped into human space through the gap between patrol routes. They were equipped with the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy, capable of passing through most sensor networks, undetected. All 3 vanished, without a trace. No debris. No distress signals. No bodies. They simply ceased to exist. High Arbiter Voss called an emergency session of the Council. The human situation has evolved beyond our initial projections, Voss announced to the assembled representatives. Our probability models require significant revision. The Fesseron delegate, still the same entity who had mocked humanity 60 years ago, spoke with something that might have been irritation. They are still primitives. Advanced primitives, perhaps, but primitives nonetheless. We should send a fleet. Remind them of the natural order. 3 scout ships have already disappeared, Voss noted. Those were not primitive vessels. Then send more. Send better ships. Send weapons capable of cracking planets. And if those also disappear? What then? The chamber fell into an uncomfortable silence. Ambassador Graff, now ancient and frail, but still holding his family's council seat, spoke for the first time since the meeting began. I was there when they left. I laughed at them. We all did. But I remember the look in the human ambassador's eyes as he walked away. It was not the look of someone accepting defeat. It was the look of someone making a decision. What decision? I did not know then. I think I know now. Grath's forearms hung limp with age, but his voice was steady. He was deciding that he would rather die free than live as less than what his people deserve to be. And now we see what that decision has produced. Sentiment, the Fesseran dismissed. What practical action do you propose? Graff turned his ancient eyes toward the representative. I propose we do nothing. Nothing aggressive. Nothing provocative. We wait. We watch. And we prepare for the possibility that we have made a very serious mistake. Nonsense. The Council has managed galactic affairs for 3 million years. We do not make mistakes about primitive species. No, Grath agreed quietly. We do not make mistakes. We make assumptions. And sometimes those assumptions blind us to what is standing right in front of us. The Council debated for hours. They argued about threat assessments and response options and the proper way to handle an unexpected variable in their carefully ordered galaxy. They discussed sanctions and embargoes and isolation protocols. In the end, they decided to wait. Not because they agreed with old Ambassador Grath, but because, for the first time in 3 million years, They were genuinely uncertain about what else to do. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, humanity continued to build, to grow, to prepare. They did not know exactly what they were preparing for, but they knew it would come. Eventually, the galaxy would force a confrontation. Eventually, the powers that had laughed at them would decide that humanity had grown too large to ignore. And when that day came, humanity intended to be ready. In the chamber where humanity had once been mocked, a new feeling had taken root. The representatives did not speak of it openly. They barely acknowledged it to themselves, but it was there, growing in the silence between words, uncertainty, and something that might, in lesser species, be called fear. The humans had been gone for 60 years, and the galaxy was beginning to wonder what would happen when they came back. 120 years of silence. The Morjuan collective had existed for 600,000 years. It was not a species in the traditional sense. It was a single vast mind spread across trillions of individual bodies, connected by quantum entanglement and psychic bonds that transcended distance. When one node thought, all nodes knew. When one node died, the collective felt its passing and carried its memories forward into eternity. The collective had never known true fear. How could it? It was too vast to threaten, too distributed to destroy, too ancient to surprise. Until today, the collective's presence in the council chamber was agitated in a way that the other representatives had never witnessed. Its thousands of bodies spoke in discordant voices, overlapping and interrupting each other in a chaos that should have been impossible for a hive mind. "We have lost contact," the collective announced. The outer ring nodes. Sector 891. All of them. Gone. High Arbiter Voss, still serving after all these years, leaned forward with unusual intensity. "Clarify. How many nodes?" 47,000 individual units. They were there. Now they are not destroyed? No. The word came from 1,000 mouths simultaneously. We would feel destruction. We would know death. This is different. This is absence. As if those nodes never existed. As if they were simply erased from reality. A murmur ran through the chamber. Sector 891 bordered human space. "You believe the humans are responsible?" asked the Valkyrie speaker. "We do not know. We cannot know." The connection was severed too quickly for any information to pass. The collective's voices grew quieter, almost fearful. "We have existed for 600 millennia. We have never experienced anything like this. We have never lost part of ourselves so completely." The discussion that followed was interrupted by something unprecedented. Every communication device in the chamber activated simultaneously. Every display screen, every neural interface, even the ancient crystal memory cores that had not been accessed in 10,000 years. A human face appeared on all of them. She was old but vital, with silver hair pulled back severely, and eyes that seemed to look directly at each representative individually. Her uniform was simple, but carried markings that suggested significant authority. "Good day, Council," she said. "My name is Director Elena Webb. I speak for the Human Confederacy. We apologize for this intrusion into your systems, but we felt direct communication was necessary." High Arbiter Voss recovered first. "How are you doing this?" "This chamber is shielded against every known form of transmission." "Every known form, yes. We have developed some that are not known." Director Webb's expression remained neutral. "But that is not why we are contacting you." "Then state your purpose." 120 years ago, my great-great-grandfather stood where this projection now appears. He came seeking partnership and was offered contempt. He walked away in silence. And humanity has been silent ever since. We are aware of your history. Then you are also aware that in those 120 years, We have not attacked you. We have not raided your territory. We have not sought revenge for the laughter in this chamber. She paused. We returned your scout ships, by the way. Their crews are healthy and waiting for pickup at your border station. Their memories of our space have been removed for security purposes, but they are otherwise unharmed. A stir ran through the representatives. The scouts were alive? We do not want war with the Council, Director Webb continued. We never did. We wanted partnership, respect, a seat at the table of galactic civilization. You denied us that, and we accepted your decision. We went our own way. Then why break your silence now? The Thessaran delegate demanded. Because something is coming. Something from outside the galaxy. Something that does not care about council politics, or human grievances, or ancient grudges. We have detected it. We have analyzed it. And in approximately 32 standard years, it will reach council space. The chamber fell absolutely silent. What is it? Voss asked. We call it the Hollow. It is what took your Morjuan nodes, though that was unintentional. A fragment of the larger entity, drawn by the collective psychic emissions. Director Webb's projection expanded, revealing a star map of the galaxy. Beyond its edge, approaching from the darkness between galaxies, was a shape that seemed to devour light itself. It has consumed everything in its path for as long as we can detect. Hundreds of galaxies, trillions of worlds, countless species. It does not communicate. It does not negotiate. It does not discriminate. It simply feeds on matter, on energy, on consciousness itself. The Morjuan felt it correctly. Not death, absence. It does not kill. It erases. And you believe this threatens the Council? Voss asked. I believe this threatens everyone. Every species. Every world. Every thought and memory in this galaxy, including humanity. Then why warn us? If we are doomed regardless? Director Webb smiled. It was a tired smile, but not without warmth. Because we have a plan. A possible way to fight it, perhaps even to stop it. But we cannot do it alone. Even with everything humanity has built in the past century, we are not enough. We need allies. We need the Council's resources, knowledge, and numbers. You want an alliance, Voss realized. Yes, after we rejected you. After we mocked you. After more than a century of silence. Yes, the chamber buzzed with whispered consultations in 1,000 different languages. And if we refuse? The Thessaran delegate asked. Director Webb's expression did not change. Then you face the Hollow alone. And probably, eventually, so do we. But at least we will have tried to save you. Save us? The Thessaran's form flickered with indignation. We do not require saving by primitive carbon creatures who have existed for an eye blink of cosmic time. Perhaps not. But consider what we accomplished in that eye blink. Consider what we might accomplish together. Or consider what happens if we both face this threat separately and fail. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. You have 1 standard year to decide. After that, we begin our preparations with or without you. The communication frequency is attached to this message. Use it if you want to talk. The projection began to fade. Wait, Voss called. 1 question. Yes, why? After everything that happened in this chamber, why would you try to save species who laughed at you? Director Webb was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. Because that is who we chose to be. When you rejected us, we had a choice. We could have become bitter, angry. We could have dedicated ourselves to revenge. Instead, we dedicated ourselves to growth, to becoming something better than what you expected us to be. She looked around the chamber 1 final time. We do not expect you to understand, but we hope you will accept our help anyway. Not for our sake. For yours. The projection vanished. The council chamber erupted into chaos. The debate that followed lasted for 11 months. The traditionalist faction, led by the Thesseran delegate and the Velthari speaker, argued that accepting human aid would legitimize the rejection of council authority. It would set a dangerous precedent. It would suggest that young species could simply leave the galactic order and return on their own terms, whenever it suited them. A pragmatist faction, led by the Morjuan Collective and several younger species representatives, argued that survival had to take priority over pride. The Hollow was coming. The evidence was undeniable. If humanity had a way to fight it, the Council would be foolish to refuse. High Arbiter Voss maintained careful neutrality, guiding the debate but not influencing it. In the end, the vote was close. 6,844 votes against alliance. 5,156 votes in favor. The motion failed. Voss transmitted the Council's decision to the human communication frequency. The Galactic Council has decided to address the Hollow threat through our own means. We thank the Human Confederacy for their warning and their offer, but we must decline. The Council has faced existential threats before. We will face this one as we have faced all others, together, but not with you. The human response came within hours, not from Director Webb, but from a man in military uniform. This is Fleet Admiral James Tanaka, Human Confederacy Defense Command. We acknowledge the Council's decision and respect their right to make it. We had hoped for a different answer. His expression was calm, almost sad. For what it is worth, we are going to try to save you anyway. Not because you deserve it, not because we have forgiven the laughter, but because that is who we are now. That is who we chose to become. We do not require your protection, the Thesseran delegate responded coldly. No, you do not, but you will receive it regardless. Admiral Tanaka paused. When the Hollow comes, look for us. We will be standing between you and the dark. The transmission ended, and in the silence that followed, the Council began to wonder if they had made the right choice. 32 years was not long. Not long at all. The Hollow arrived ahead of schedule. 20-8 years after the Council rejected humanity's offer of alliance, the darkness at the edge of the galaxy began to move faster. Scientists across 1,000 worlds detected the change and recalculated their projections with growing horror. The Council assembled the largest military force in galactic history. 50 million warships from 9,000 species gathered at the galactic rim, armed with weapons that could shatter planets and extinguish stars. The fleet stretched across 3 light years of space, a wall of metal and energy that represented the combined might of 3 million years of civilization. Admiral Groth, grandson of the ambassador who had laughed at humanity so long ago, commanded the defensive line. He was old now, his forearms weakened by age, but his tactical mind remained sharp. He watched the darkness approach on his sensor screens and felt something his species rarely experienced: doubt. All vessels report ready, his communications officer announced. The fleet is in position. Good. Maintain formation. Wait for my command. The Hollow came like a wave of nothing. It was not darkness in the traditional sense. It was the absence of everything. Light, matter, energy, meaning. Where it passed, stars simply ceased to exist. Planets were not destroyed. They were removed from reality, as if they had never been. Weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer reported. All vessels target the leading edge. Maximum firepower. Fire on my mark. Admiral Grath raised his hand. Mark. 50 million warships fired simultaneously. The combined energy output exceeded the total power generation of most civilizations. Beams of annihilation, missiles of quantum disruption, waves of gravitational force that could tear apart anything made of matter. The hollow absorbed it all. Not deflected, not destroyed, absorbed. The attacks simply vanished into the darkness as if they had never existed. No effect, the tactical officer whispered. Admiral, there is no effect. Increase power. All vessels, continuous fire. The fleet poured everything it had into the approaching void. For 6 hours, the greatest military force ever assembled unleashed destruction on a scale that defied comprehension. The hollow did not slow down. It did not react. It simply continued forward, and then it began to feed. The first ships to fall were those at the edges of the formation. One moment they were there, broadcasting telemetry and battle reports. The next moment they were gone. Not destroyed, gone. Their signals simply stopped. Their positions on the tactical display simply emptied. Retreat. Admiral Graf ordered. All vessels retreat. The fleet tried to disengage. But the hollow was faster now, energized by what it had consumed. It surged forward, swallowing ships by the thousands. The quantum communications network filled with desperate transmissions from vessels caught at the edge of annihilation. It is in our engines. We cannot escape. Tell my family the hull is dissolving. Not burning, dissolving, like it was never. Why? Why is this happening? We did nothing to deserve silence. One by one, the voices went silent. In 6 hours, the hollow consumed 43 million warships. 7 million survivors fled in scattered groups, their formation shattered, their morale destroyed. Admiral Graf was among them, his flagship limping toward the galactic core with barely enough power to maintain life support. He had seen the face of extinction. And it had no face at all. The council chamber received the news in stunned disbelief. 43 million vessels, High Arbiter Voss repeated. In 6 hours, yes. Admiral Graf's holographic image flickered with damage. Our weapons had no effect. Our shields offered no protection. We could not even slow it down. What do we do now? The Velthari speaker asked. For the first time in anyone's memory, the ancient crystalline beings sounded afraid. We pray, the Morjuan collective whispered through 1,000 throats. We pray to whatever gods might listen. Perhaps, Voss said slowly, there is another option. Before anyone could respond, the sensor arrays detected something new. A single object, approaching the hollow from an unexpected angle. It was enormous, larger than most space stations, larger than some moons, and it was broadcasting a human identification signal. This is the Human Confederacy weapon platform Prometheus, a voice announced on all frequencies. To all Council vessels in the engagement zone, evacuate immediately. We are about to do something unprecedented. Admiral Graf stared at his displays in disbelief. Where did that come from? Unknown, sir. It appears to have emerged from human space approximately 17 minutes ago. How? Nothing can travel that fast. Apparently, something can. The Prometheus took up position directly in the path of the hollow. It was alone. One construct against an entity that had just consumed 43 million warships. A new voice came over the communication network. Young, female, determined. This is Commander Maya Webb, commanding the Prometheus. Great-granddaughter of Ambassador David Webb. We told you we would be here when the hollow came. We told you we would stand between you and the dark. Commander, Admiral Graf transmitted, your sacrifice is appreciated but meaningless. Our entire fleet could not slow that thing. One platform, no matter how advanced, cannot watch. The Prometheus fired dot. It was not a weapon in any conventional sense. There was no beam of energy, No projectile, no explosive force. Instead, the platform seemed to project something that the surviving sensors could not properly interpret. The best description anyone could provide afterward was meaning. Pure, concentrated, fundamental meaning. The opposite of what the hollow represented. The effect was immediate. The hollow recoiled. For the first time in its existence, spanning hundreds of galaxies, it encountered something it could not simply absorb. The projection from Prometheus struck it like a physical blow, and the endless darkness actually retreated. Then the hollow struck back. A tendril of nothing lashed out at Prometheus, seeking to erase this impudent obstacle. The platform shuddered. Its outer hull began to dissolve. Warning signals flooded the communication frequencies, but it did not fall. Prometheus continued to fire, and as it fired, it moved forward, advancing into the very mouth of oblivion. Commander Webb, Admiral Grath transmitted desperately, "You cannot survive this. Withdraw, please." "We did not come here to survive, Admiral. We came here to buy time." The battle lasted for 19 hours. 19 hours of a single human construct, holding back an entity that had consumed galaxies. 19 hours of impossible resistance against inevitable destruction. 19 hours of something that should not have been possible by any known law of physics or probability. By the end, the Prometheus was barely recognizable. Its hull was torn and twisted. Its systems were failing one by one. Its crew had suffered 80% casualties, but it was still there, still broadcasting, still fighting, and the hollow was retreating, not destroyed, not defeated, but hurt, wounded in a way it had never been wounded before. It needed time to recover, to adapt, to understand what had happened. Time that humanity had just bought for the galaxy. Commander Webb's final transmission came as the Prometheus' systems began their final shutdown. "Council, I hope you are watching. I hope you are understanding. We came here to save you because that is who we are. Not because you deserved it. Not because we forgave the laughter. But because refusing to help when we could would have made us less than what we want to be." Static crackled across the frequency. "The hollow is wounded. It will return. Maybe in 50 years. Maybe in 100. But you have time now. Use it. Learn from this. Learn from us." Her voice grew weaker. "And maybe, when it comes back, we can face it together. As equals. As allies. As something better than either of us was alone." The transmission ended. The Prometheus drifted, silent and broken, between the galaxy and the wounded dark dot in the council chamber. 12,000 species sat in absolute silence. The Thesseron delegate, the same entity who had dismissed humanity so many times, was the first to speak. "They saved us. They delayed the threat," Voss corrected quietly. "But yes, they stood between us and annihilation. After everything we did to them, after we rejected their alliance, why?" The question came from 1,000 voices simultaneously. The Morjuan collective answered, their voices finally unified again, soft with something that might have been shame. "Because they are not like us. They remember insults, but they do not let those memories dictate their actions. They were told they were nothing, and they became something. They were told they were not worthy of our alliance, and they proved they were worthy of something greater." A long silence followed. "What do we do now?" Someone asked. Voss's form solidified, taking on a weight and gravity that it had not carried in a very long time. "We go to them. Not as the council granting favors. Not as the powerful condescending to the weak. We go as species who have been given a gift we did not deserve. We go to ask how we can repay what can never be repaid. They may not accept us," Admiral Grath warned. "No, they may not. But we have to try." Voss paused. It is, finally, the least we owe them. For the first time in 3 million years, the Galactic Council voted unanimously. It was time to face humanity again. And this time, there would be no laughter. The Council delegation approached Earth with a humility that the galaxy had never seen before. Their flagship, the Unity of Purpose, was the largest diplomatic vessel ever constructed. It carried representatives from all 12,000 member species, from the ancient Thesaurons to the youngest civilizations that had joined the Council only centuries ago. High Arbiter Voss traveled in physical form. The entity's thought body manifested completely for the first time since the Council's founding. This was not a negotiation. This was a pilgrimage. As the delegation entered the Sol system, they witnessed the full scope of what humanity had achieved in 150 years of determined isolation. The solar swarm was complete now, a shell of collectors drinking in nearly the entire output of the sun. Venus was a garden world, its terraforming finished, its surface covered in forests and oceans that had not existed 2 centuries ago. Mars held cities that rivaled anything in Council space. And Earth remained hidden behind its shell of orbital constructs. The mysterious heart of human civilization. 50 human escort ships met them at the system's edge. Each one was a marvel of engineering that the Council's best scientists could not fully comprehend. They moved with a grace and power that made the Unity of Purpose feel like a primitive sailing vessel. The human ships did not threaten. They simply guided. A voice came over the communication channel. Council delegation, this is Sol Traffic Control. Welcome to human space. Please follow the beacon to Earth Orbital Station 7. Representatives are waiting for you. Understood, Voss replied. We come in peace and with open hearts. We know. That is why you are being allowed to approach. The Unity of Purpose followed its escorts through a maze of defensive platforms and industrial stations that could have destroyed them 1,000 times over. The Council representatives watched in silence, each species coming to terms with how completely the balance of power had shifted. The meeting took place in a garden, not a council chamber, not a fortress. A garden suspended in the orbital shell around Earth, filled with trees and flowers and streams that should not have been possible in space. The air was sweet with growing things. Sunlight filtered through the transparent walls. Warm and welcoming. Director Elena Webb was there. Older now, but still carrying herself with the same quiet strength she had shown in her message to the Council. Beside her stood Fleet Admiral Tanaka, the commander who had promised to stand between the galaxy and the dark. And around them were humans of every age and background, scientists and artists and children, all gathered to witness this moment. High Arbiter Voss approached the human delegation and did something that sent shockwaves through every watching species. Voss bowed, a full bow, deep and formal, the acknowledgement of an equal, perhaps more than an equal. On behalf of the Galactic Council, Voss said, I offer our deepest apologies for the mockery in our chamber 150 years ago, for the rejection of your reasonable request for partnership, for the pride that nearly cost us everything. Director Webb studied the High Arbiter for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. Apology accepted, she said finally. Now let us talk about the future. The negotiations that followed lasted for 3 months. Every species sent their best diplomats, their most skilled negotiators, their wisest leaders. They came prepared to bargain, to compromise, to trade concessions for advantages. Humanity surprised them all. They asked for nothing, got no reparations, no territorial concessions, no formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing, no punishment for those who had mocked them or voted against alliance. Instead, they offered partnership, true partnership, not the hierarchical relationship the Council had offered so long ago, with humanity at the bottom of the ladder. A genuine alliance of equals, where every species had an equal voice, regardless of age or power or technological advancement. The old system failed, Director Webb explained to the assembled delegates. Not just against the hollow. It failed because it was built on the assumption that some species are inherently superior to others. That age equals wisdom. That power equals worth. She gestured to the garden around them, to the impossible engineering that sustained it. We built all of this in 150 years. Not because we are better than you. Not because we are smarter or stronger or more deserving. We built it because we refused to accept the limits you placed on us. Because we worked together when we needed to. Because we competed fairly when competition served us. Because we never stopped believing we could be more than what we were. What exactly are you proposing? Voss asked. A new council. One where membership is not earned through age or power, but through commitment to mutual growth and defense. Where young species are mentored, not mocked. Where differences are celebrated, not feared. And the hollow? It will return. Yes, it will. We have bought time, not victory. But with time, together, we might find a way to truly defeat it. Or at least to survive it. Together. The Thessaran delegate, who had opposed humanity at every turn for 150 years, spoke. Why? After everything that happened, why would you trust us? Director Webb smiled. It was a genuine smile, warm but touched with sadness. Because holding on to anger is exhausting. Because revenge does not build anything worth having. Because we spent a century proving we did not need you. And now we want to see what we might accomplish if we stop working against each other and start working together. She paused. And because Commander Maya Webb was my granddaughter. She died on the Prometheus, saving a galaxy that had rejected her ancestors. Her last message asked us to try to face the future as equals, as allies, as something better than either of us was alone. Silence filled the garden. I will not dishonor her sacrifice by refusing to try. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in 3 million years, every species in the council agreed on something. The old order dissolved. The new Galactic Alliance was born. And humanity, the species that had been laughed at and dismissed and rejected, took its place at the center of galactic civilization, not through conquest, not through force, not through revenge, not through being exactly what they had always claimed to be. Partners, equals, people who refused to become what others expected them to be. 500 years passed. The hollow returned, as everyone knew it would. It was larger now, having fed in the darkness between galaxies. More powerful, more hungry. But the galaxy that met, it was transformed. 5 centuries of cooperation had produced technologies that neither humanity nor the Council could have developed alone. 5 centuries of shared knowledge had created defenses that the hollow had never encountered. 5 centuries of genuine partnership had forged bonds that could not be broken. The final battle lasted for 3 years. It was fought across 1,000 star systems. Millions gave their lives, human and alien alike, standing together against the consuming darkness. In the end, the hollow was not just driven back. It was defeated. Unmade by the combined will of a galaxy that had learned finally that no species was too small to matter, that no voice was too quiet to be heard, that the only way to face the infinite darkness was together. In the histories written afterward, scholars debated the turning point, the moment when extinction became survival, when defeat became victory. Most agreed it happened 5 centuries earlier. In a council chamber were 12,000 species, laughed at 3 humans in simple gray suits, when humanity was, offered scraps from the table of civilization and chose to walk away in silence. And in that silence, found their voice. The last words of the official historical record were simple. They laughed at us. We said nothing. We walked away. We built something they could not ignore. And when they needed us, we did not laugh back. We helped anyway. Because that is what humans do. That is who we chose to be. The record was signed by the last descendant of Ambassador David Webb, who had stood in that ancient chamber so long ago and made a decision that changed everything. Walk away. Work hard. Never forget. And never become what they expect you to be. The galaxy remembered Dot, and this time no one laughed.